3 days of competitive play, 14 rounds of Swiss, and one of the most compelling top 8s flesh and blood play has ever seen have led us to one final match. This time it's for all the marbles. From France, Arthur Trehet takes on Maximilian Klein of Germany. It's Dromai Ash Artist, and it's Dorinthea Ironsong working her way back into the spotlight. My goodness, what a way to end things here, and it's great to be with you in the commentary booth. I'm Mitch Leslie, joined by Brian Gottlieb. Here in LA, we save the best for last.
I could not imagine a more fitting capstone to this weekend. A hero in Dromai that has been the secondary or at times primary scourge for so long. Of course, if is able to convert in this event, on the cusp of Living Legend, we'll be sitting at 996 Living Legend points. Sure to leave shortly after that. But to me, the headline stealer here, it's Dorinthea, a hero that has sort of languished, sort of been forgotten about, except in the hands of a select few, including Maximilian, one of the OG Dories alongside Josh Lau, carrying that hero to a top 8 and looking to go ahead and stamp his name on Pro Tour immortality.
And this is a metagame for specialists. Make no mistake. But who would have thought Dorinthea would be that third corner of the dastardly triumvirate of top decks here at Pro Tour Los Angeles? Let's jump into it, folks. Let's get reacquainted with our superstar finalists. It's Maximilian Klein here, who, as we now realize, faced off against Arthur Trehet on 2 occasions throughout the draft.
He won one and
he lost one.
Rubber match time. Let's go.
Tied through those games. Of course, that beautiful Kasai draft from Maximilian Klein that left us all in awe with what he was able to assemble was a big part of what got him here. And the results speak for themselves. German Nationals, always a top competitor. Pro Tour Baltimore, top 8 showing. We saw Maximilian Klein back then on Lexi, but we knew he always gravitated towards the Warriors, and he realized it was his time to bring the axes out and win one for Solana. Let's talk about the deck list that Maximilian is bringing here, because Axes Dorinthea, Hatchets Dorinthea more specifically, is not a new concept. It's been around for quite some time, ever since, in fact, Spill Blood was printed. But the one thing needed to unlock this deck was one itty-bitty token by the name of Agility.
Yeah, that's really the key enabler of this deck. And look, we know Maximilian's game plan at this point. I want to highlight a couple cards that are going to have an interesting impact on this match. First, let's call out Cleave. It is, debatable how important this card actually is to determining the outcome, but it is the way Dorinthea can kind of deal with a board that has gotten a little bit out of control, maybe reset things a little bit. I also want to mention one more time, Ripple Away. We saw that card have the perfect impact on turn 1 of the last game. Maybe that can come down, do something against a Rake the Embers that is trying to set up, prevent a creation of an Ashwing as well as an Ash.
Yeah, I mean, stopping Ash generation is absolutely huge because, as chat rightly pointed out, the Ash must flow. Let's look across to the other side of the table here, and Maximilian's final opponent and a final boss, Arthur Trehet, has become, hailing from France with a 7-0-1-1 record coming out of CC. This guy's been playing for about a year. 1 year, that's it. And already during that time, a 5th place showing at French Nationals, and then a top 64 placing at Worlds Barcelona. Prodigious ability at this game. Demonstrated one of the most perfect Dromai versus Kano matches I've ever seen. And that was after he showed us an incredible recovery against another incredible KO player. This guy knows how to get it done, and we finally get to see how he factors up, he matches up against this Hatchets Dorinthea list.
Yeah, look, Mitch, fear might be the mind killer, but I will tell you that Arthur has shown none of it thus far. Just absolutely fearless in his approach, willing to take damage whenever doing so makes sense, and using it to reset, to find those windows to establish arena presence and unleash that army of dragons.
I want to talk about that arena presence, Brian, because one play that Arthur is slowly becoming known for is that Mage Master's Boots into passing Mirage play that to some people might look a little bit odd. Let's have a look at this deck list as we delve into that idea, because in the past, players were using Tome of Findle off this. We don't see any of those cards in Arthur's deck. The ability to get that aura out that obviously doesn't have go again, that would otherwise consume your action point, to put it on the field and still be able to act afterwards and potentially benefit from that phantasm removing effect of the card, the only blue card in his deck, has unseated both KO players on the way here.
Yeah, it's mostly about avoiding Phantasm in timely moments, which Arthur has shown an absolute knack for. But Phantasm not going to be a huge influence over this match, of course. Limited number of poppers available. I have to call out Amnesia. Expect that to make the deck. I have to call out Command and Conquer, of course. And I think an absolutely critical card in this matchup for Maximilian Klein is going to be that one of Down and Dirty he's got floating. And I know I'm talking a lot about Max's deck while we go ahead and look at Arthur's deck, but it's just so important to think about how this plan is going to go ahead and line up with what the Dory is doing.
When we jump into the game in just a moment, we'll notice that there is Null Rune equipment here available for Maximilian to be able to bring that in and protect himself from these burn them alls that have been so annoying, so frustrating, and so pivotal in evening up a life deficit that Arthur kept finding himself in after both of his KO opponents back-to-back resolved turn 0 cast bones against him. Nothing so degenerate found in the halls of Solana here for our Dorinthea player, but Arthur will have plenty of other threats that will need to be answered, as Maximilian needs to respect these dragons. He needs to clear them with regularity. He's not on a Dawnblade build, so he cannot grow that Dawnblade by getting free counters, by breaking these dragons down, and that's a weakness to this deck. Maximilian's actions don't get any bigger in that regard, so he needs to balance the dragon clearing and going face, putting pressure and stripping cards from Arthur.
Yeah, some critical things to unpack already in this matchup, Mitch. It is balance of justice for Maximilian Klein. That's going to be able to go ahead and respond to those Tomes of Imperial Flame to get juiced up a little bit. Over on the side of Arthur. And hold on, we just have to go into Max's turn. This is the start. We saw this in the last round. This is exactly what you want to be doing on turn 1.
Arthur keeps having to face this unavoidable damage on turn 0. 3 games in a row, his opponents have been able to develop, a bunch of might tokens, or here, leak a number of damage through. The Blade Flurry.
How about a little more damage leaking through?
This is what I said. These reactions are basically, you get the life total damage as printed on the card here in these dominate scenarios. Shift the tide of battle as well will set Maximilian up with agility tokens to start the game with.
Looks pretty good so far, Mitch.
Yuck.
I think this is exactly what you need to do if you're Max. You need to go ahead and get out there aggressively, get the setup going, get some of this equipment dealt with, go ahead and create that Spectral Shield, but a fine start for Max thus far.
That is an incredible amount of damage here with Dominate. The Spectral Shield, of course, will help with some of that, but it's still 7 Dominate coming across you. When Arthur can't be priced into giving any equipment so early, he is just going to have to sign the bill for a large amount of this damage.
Yeah, going to take 3 more here, and that's a great start for Max Klein.
Perfect hand, too, for it. A Blade Flurry to pair with the Spilled Blood. And it must be written at the stars at this point. Maximilian even getting to pitch his favorite card to power this turn. Everything coming up well for the Hatchet's Dorinthea. But I'm going to be real with you, Brian. That has to happen. Yeah. I do feel that Hatchet's Story is not favored in this matchup.
Agreed.
It is hard to keep the Dromai down. You have to have a hot start.
Agreed. Max is playing somewhat from behind, but if anyone can do it, it is Max. And look at this hand. This is somewhat an unorthodox hand here. It is good at presenting some damage, but we're looking at something like Rabble, Blaze, maybe Arsenal, that rake, and no real setup accomplished if that's going to be the case. Interesting to see how Arthur wants to go ahead and navigate this. I want to come back around, though, to these equipment, Mitch, because I think they're going to be very important as this game plays out. Over on Max's side, no AB. Not interested.
Yeah.
Not going to present that. And, I kind of get it. If you get to the point where you have to go ahead and give cards from hand to stop that burn them all damage, you're probably losing anyway. And I think it feels nice to go ahead and have the prevention effect. I don't think it actually wins you any games.
No.
So that's a good starting point for Max. Over on Arthur's side, we do see those Mage Master boots not going to matter in this occasion. It is just Snapdragon Scalers. And to me, that's all about just a decreased importance of Phantasm in this match. You do not have to worry about passing Mirage. That's not your game plan here.
Maximilian also really needs the Dynamos to answer Kyloria's breakpoint and also eat a free Ether Ashwing attack sort of each turn. You don't want to go without that for Null Rune boots. And we know the Braveforge braces can get a lot of value and prevent Maximilian from IPing himself on those clunkier hands here.
Yeah, they've been great so far. I've been really impressed actually by the impact of Braveforge bracers in this Axis Dorinthea deck.
Is that Ravenous Rabble? Rabble sounds like a South Park quote, but in Arthur's hands, it represents potentially 8 damage.
Yenderai, thank you.
Yenderai off the top. Maximilian just confirming that a second time here.
Yeah, Max already choosing to go ahead and take a little bit of damage here. Does have that ripple away at the ready. I don't know if it's going to factor on this particular turn. There are some worlds where it could.
I don't know if Ash really
breaks
the Embers
not.
play. And that's the tough part as well for Arthur. He has been going second in many of these games. So doesn't really have the ability to sort of just create Ash, like by, again, paying to a gold token or some other mechanism, right? He's not using, the arm guards that allow you to pitch into them for Quell or anything like that. So
Yeah, coming in as the lower seed has cost Arthur a little bit of flexibility, but it has not mattered thus far. Navigated.
Oh, those games were not decided by a turn
so
player, that's
well.
for sure. Blaze Headlong. Is this a red line deck?
Sure
What's
looks
gonna
like
be
it
Flame
right
Core
now.
Awakening next? Like, what's going on?
And look, like I said, Mitch, damage output on this hand is okay. I think like 4/4/4 sounds pretty good. It's not what you want to do. Like, you need to get the ball rolling, and you don't have infinite time here. We do know the ceiling of this story deck when you get those triple axe attacks pretty high.
Historically, Dorinthea struggles with the red line style of Dromai deck more than the Big Dragon. That is, of course, a matchup where you take Dawnblade's existence into consideration. There are lots of different forms of this deck. We've seen like Decimated Great Axe with a Dawnblade in the sideboard, for example. Here, Dawnblade does not play nicely with Spill Blood and Cleave and stuff like that. It's just, you just water your deck down so much by trying to play both sides of that coin here. Second Rabble, revealing that very same Yenderai. And this is very respectable 3-card 12 from our Dromai.
So interesting. We've seen Max be so defensive, just absolutely surgical with all of those defensive cards, times them perfectly, protects that life total above everything else, and starting off this game by just saying, yeah, let it rip. Go ahead. 4, I don't care.
You never feel good blocking these. There's no one hits. Ravenous Rebel might be the most unblocked card at nominal life totals, I think, in the game. Really just...
Yeah, that's a good bet, Mitch. I like that one.
One of them. It's, it's like a scar for a scar in many ways. It's like, oh, yeah, okay.
Fine.
I'll turn off your other scars by taking this to the face. Ravenous is just, it's just damage.
Agility at the ready here for Max. That ripple away is going to be pitched. And Hatchet of Body rumbles in.
That's it. Back to the old chopping block.
Looks like Yenderai, Sigil, Uvia, I believe.
Uvia is an interesting card in this matchup.
As the last card.
It's quite annoying to try and deal with Uvia as the Access Dorinthea player because she's got a big trunk on her. That amount of health. And obviously if you can, keep the ash flowing, as it were, those ash wings can threaten to kind of overwhelm a deck that doesn't always answer them that well. But again, where's the ash at? Where do it be?
Yeah, Arthur's going to have to find a window, do a little pitching, go ahead and get that ash train rolling for sure. Opportunity has not presented itself thus far. Now this hatchet's going to come in for 2. Arthur has the first opportunity to defend on this turn cycle.
Arthur probably feels a little vindicated here, not trying to do something obtuse to generate ash on this turn, seeing that ripple away, in the pitch zone now.
It could have ruined some plans if the production was not efficient or relying on something in particular.
Maximilian, one of his biggest inspirations in Flesh and Blood was watching Pablo Pintor's 0-2 into Pro Tour win at New Jersey. Max did not start in such a difficult way here, but the end result may well be the same. That is what is literally on the table. Big 6 to follow up for the red hit and run.
Very clean for Max. Has access to that Hatchet of Body as well to round out this combat chain.
So Arthur looking incredibly fatigued after that second consecutive KO match. He's had a chance to breathe, a chance to rest.
Here we go again, Mitch. Arthur just using this life total as a resource, understands when he can take damage, has shown an almost prescient vision of the future where he can just know exactly what's about to happen, know exactly how much damage he could take, and then pivot at exactly the right moment.
24 plays 32. A full grip maintained, as there's definitely some ash to create, perhaps some dragons to invoke here. First, we reach for the gold token. So, the former, it's about ash generation. Pitching 2 reds here to draw a card, to generate 2 ash, and now we are off to the races.
Yeah, pretty critical that happened. We cannot go forever without ash. We have to start establishing some presence out there in the arena. Of course, Flamescale Furnace going to be available now as well, which could bode well for the future of this turn and maybe for the future of that Command and Conquer.
Looks pretty good here, for sure. Max's turn looks pretty good as well. It's that hit and run in the hand. Gain some life. Sigil of Solace here from Arthur, so able to recoup some of what he freely offered up the previous turn. We are in the tank for another moment here.
Yeah, debating the Flame Scale Furnace here. Wants to make sure that Command and Conquer is the card that he would like to pitch here.
This deck is really lean. You know, there's no Tomaltai in here. There's no Dominia. It is just...
No nonsense.
Yeah.
No nonsense. Just good dragons. And he's shifted plans here. Yendurai going to be the pitch to go ahead and get that Flame Scale Furnace going. Get a little bit more Ash, as well as plenty of resources to play out the remainder of this turn. And that offers something like Rake the Embers into Command and Conquer. Pretty good way to get the Dragon Train rolling.
That is lovely stuff here. Gain an Ash and expend the Ash to develop our own personal army. The Whelps once again make their appearance. And we're not done yet. 2 resources floating signifies the potential for this Command and Conquer to be deployed. But hey, maybe these Ashwings want to party a little first.
Maybe, and with very few poppers in the deck, I think you're going to have to find some spots to go ahead and gamble on these Ashwings. And I believe gamble successful here, no popper available for Maximilian Klein. Expect we'll see those Valiant Dynamos go ahead and commit it to defense here.
Yep. They will intercept the first Ashwing. In comes number 2. We'll take that. Number 3, signing for that bill as well. Maximilian doesn't even reach and take his hand off the pen. Command and Conquer is a chain ender. Warrior players familiar with this one as well. It's just good value.
Nice cleanup here from Arthur. Going to go ahead and let it rip with 6 power and a bunch of Arsenal disruption. Max looking at a hand of Hold the Line, Blade Flurry, and an Arsenal card. So far has 2 cards pulled to the front, looking to potentially cover up this Command and Conquer and protect that Arsenal in this instance.
Yeah, like because you're so locked into a value doctrine on this Dory deck, letting Command and Conquer hit you to leak any damage and take your Arsenal, let's go from 6 to 9 value conditionally, that's basically untenable if you're playing that numbers game yourself. So you, in almost every case, will get cards in front of it, including a power card in Blade Flurry.
Got to feel good to take that one out of hand if you are Arthur. Let's check in with Max, see what the output here looks like. A blue card for pitching and a hit and run.
He can do the thing.
Yeah, totally fine turn available. The Valiant Dynamo should be reset, and Tunic will take up perhaps best save for a future turn. We'll see what the usage is here.
All right, he is signifying a Blade Runner in Arsenal.
And there it is.
And it's a good one. +3 here. Now, you have a Tunic counter up, so I'm telling you, this is dirty. Go again, give it to that second axe for 8, and with a resource available, that first axe hitting, yeah, we get to do the thing.
Sounds pretty good. Pretty good, Mitch. That Tunic counter made use of immediately for Maximilian Klein.
2-card hand, by the way. Plus Arsenal.
Scary. That's scary stuff.
Very reasonable. Very reasonable. Oy, oy, oy.
283, the breakdown here.
And let's add 1 value for a Valiant Dynamo reset.
Math adds up for sure, and let's add it up all day long for Maximilian Klein, looking to cement his legacy amongst the best flesh and blood players in the world. There is no doubt in my mind that should Maximilian Klein finish the job here, take this victory, he belongs in that discussion. 2 Pro Tour top 8s, there's not many folks who can go ahead and check off that box. Along with a Pro Tour win, you're in Matt Folks territory right now, someone who also belongs in that same discussion among the GOATs of the game.
You know why Max is here?
Why is
He
that?
came to Pro Tour Los Angeles to get some ELO so he could play in German Nationals this year.
That's a good idea.
That's why.
He's ready for it now.
Nice to say he's well and truly exceeded that threshold and found himself now fighting for the greatest honor of his flesh and blood career.
And again, for
Look at the ELO.
yeah, I think he has gotten the ELO. He has gotten all the ELO at this point. For Arthur Trehet, again, using that life total as a resource, Axe is put to the work of cleaning up some dragons. So still a bit of a hybrid plan here from Max. Needs to make sure that that arena does not get out of control at the same time damage is being offered.
Okay, starting to establish a board. Miragai, the first piece of that puzzle, and Themi comes down as well. actually has some applications here. This turns off D-Rex, turns off Take It on the Chin as well.
I don't mind it at all. I think it can absolutely find a purpose, can this Themi. Sneaky good, even in non-Kano matchups.
It's good in so many places.
It's like a double in the swing hand alongside a goblet for Max. What's going to be the defense here? No poppers rearing their heads as of yet.
Can he pass up the double in the swing value? I reckon he can. This guy's got discipline. Yeah,
he does what's necessary. He does what's necessary to win games. It's not always the flashiest play. It is always the right play. Valiant Dynamo committed to the defense of this Ashwing, as we often expect to see.
Is Arthur willing to take the risk?
I think you have to. I think that's how this game gets out of control. If you find yourself too hesitant, too scared of a potential popper, you give Maximilian so much advantage over time. I love the way Arthur has played these early turns. I love the way Arthur has played every single turn of this top 8, frankly. But things going very well thus far in terms of the decision to go ahead and challenge Max on those poppers.
Themi having 4 health is pretty annoying.
Right.
To sort of get rid of. And you don't ever want to spend more than 1 axe swing on clearing a dragon. That is, you are down horrendous at that point.
Yeah, that's a value leak. In a deck focused on value, you do not want to tolerate that kind of value loss, and it is going to be Hatchet headed towards this Ether Ashwing. Blade Runner goes ahead, buffs that up, and that means the Hatchet of Mind is up to the task of clearing that Miragai.
Very good. That little +1 buff there gets you to the right number.
Very clean defensive turn for Maximilian Klein.
He has a life lead, right? He can spend it. The concern is always allowing the Dromai to return serve with a 4-card hand here. But again, like if they're ash-starved or if that's in question at all, their ability to sort of put you under pressure in response is limited. Here it is. That is a dead card in Maximilian Klein's hand, by the way. They take it on the chin. And Tome of Imperial Flame now will be resolved for the Frenchman.
Yeah, I think this shows up at a very opportune time. Looks like it can be paired up with something like a Rake the Embers if Max wants. Also gets rid of that Nourishing Emptiness in hand, which is not turned on. Do not want to be working with that quite yet.
It does everything this time. It does everything.
Yeah, really coming up big here is this Tome of Imperial Flame as well as this Ash generation. All the resources you need for any turn. Beautiful stuff from Arthur. Big shot across the bow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Miragai coming back into the mix here.
A shot across the bow threatens to become a broadside if we get any more of these dragons developed. Themi gets across. Here's 3 to consider. Where are those poppers?
Not seeing them so far. There is a Command and Conquer in hand. So first one is available at this point. Let's see if this is the moment. Again, Arthur almost seems to have the ability to predict the future. Can he see through Maximilian's hand and chooses to take a foot off the gas and protect that Miragai on this turn?
Balance of Justice is an activated ability, right?
Yep.
That's frustrating for Maximilian.
Yep.
Cannot respond to the Tome of Imperial Flame activation with a card draw here. Locked out of his card play and activated abilities on this turn. That Themi needs to go, but would it ever eclipse Miragai in priority?
It's a good question. There are moments in the game where the answer could be yes, but they're very specific moments, and I don't think that moment is right now.
Definitely not. Arthur, though, this is exactly where he wants to be.
That Themi has denied a lot of value, though.
It's so gross. Very powerful card. Here comes Ashwing, number 1.
Yeah, only 2 Ashwings being made here, keeping that extra Ash around Valiant Dynamo as we expect, hopping in front of the first one. Second one comes through. This one is going to hit.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
The Miragai's coming in, and this time Max is ready with the popper. It's hard to fault Arthur. I really do think you need to make your opponent have it in a lot of instances. If you play scared, that's how you get punished.
We're 2 Miragais down now. Cadaverous Contraband can return those, but that's a card that's going to garner the appropriate amount of respect if we see it deployed. Maximilian Klein has allowed this life lead to dwindle somewhat, and look at this discipline. I mean, it's what you expect from him at this point. Oh, Themi is on the chopping block.
Yeah, looks good. Finds the buff. Can go ahead and clean up the dragons if we want, but we're going to go face. Yeah, and look, it's a hard decision. You have to decide whether you're going to go try and get these points of value, or if you're going to take down the dragons. There's never a good answer, it feels like a lot of the times. Damned if you do, damned if you don't when you're taking on a Dromai.
This represents almost a third of Arthur's total life right now. The popper coming up at the right time. 6 of them left in the deck here for Maximilian still. That's a good number.
On assumption. We certainly
That's right.
assume they are all present.
Yeah, there's a question of whether like you risk the fat decking of including amnesia. 4 feels uncomfortable though, I will say.
I would agree with that.
How many
I say
poppers
you
have you got,
brought those
Mikey?
poppers, you want to play with them. Only 1 popper down thus far, so they are going to be a factor as we proceed.
Looks like he's eyeing off 0 cost go-agains here. He's considering the possibility, I think, maybe of a 3rd swing at the moment. But Maximilian doesn't need a 0 cost to keep going with 1 card still to hand. Arthur really feels his favorite part about Flesh and Blood is delving into each matchup and appreciating them from a micro and macro perspective. Loves the idea of pitch stacking, operating on that 2nd cycle. He's in his element.
Absolutely. I cannot think of a better deck for somebody who appreciates the nuances of matchups, the ins and outs, than Dromai. You know it, Mitch. You've played against good Dromais, you've played against medium Dromais, you've played against bad Dromais. The difference is astronomical.
Yes. Times I feel powerful, and often, against the great Dromai, absolutely helpless. They know exactly what I'm trying to do. They deny me all of my win conditions and still put immense pressure down.
And Arthur declared no defenses there, and Maximilian was ready with the in the swing. 3 more points headed the way of Arthur, and Arthur now at a paltry 10. Look, though, Mitch, I've seen this before. I know how this story ends. Arthur lets his life total lapse, and then out of nowhere, he finds aggression.
Okay, defense reaction, I think, there in hand. We'll need to double check that, but that would be a bit awkward for Maximilian here. Start with a rabble. 3 guesses as to how this is responded to.
Rabble going to come in 4-4 here. Goblet at the ready.
Hold the line.
The
Looks
line.
very
A
sad.
lot of blues here. Blade Runner.
Hold the line is going to have to be saved to power Max's next turn. Themi is pretty good.
I think now Max has a little bit of life to work with if that's the way he wants to approach this turn. Could go ahead and just look to soak some damage and come back with a pretty big turn with the Tunic ready. And Max says, yeah, that's all good. I'll go ahead and take 4 here. I think with those spoils, I kind of like Max getting aggressive on this next go-around, presuming no disaster from Arthur. We'll see what he has to offer to try and dissuade Max from that plan. This is a pretty good way of doing so. It is that Kyloria coming down.
Do you want to give me dynamos, friend? Probably not. Not this time around, anyway. No copper generators here for Maximilian. That Spoils of War comes in a little bit too late here, so that'll be a card for Arthur if Kyloria ends up getting in.
Yeah, equipment's still at the ready for Maximilian. Full value available on Balance of Justice, on Brave Forge Bracer. So if Max does want to go ahead and just let this Kyloria swing and keep the entirety of this hand, that is a real option for Max at this point.
Here comes Kylo Ren. Is the Force with him this time around? 1 card in Dynamos is a very respectable way to approach this. If there's blue redundancy, we know that Hold the Line won't be getting any value this turn. Not in many cases, really. We get full value in this kind of matchup.
Max going to have a quick count, see what's available from Arthur. This turn is not over, we know. Kyloria could just be the start of things. Plenty of defensive options for Maximilian here. Could commit a card plus Dynamos, could commit a couple pieces of equipment. A lot to consider. What does the return swing look like? That's what Max is thinking through now. What's my ceiling? Can I go ahead and put Arthur in a huge amount of threat and start forcing him to make some suboptimal blocks?
Yeah, can he afford to let him draw a card? That's a hard no.
Yeah. Clean block there. Blade Runner plus Valiant Dynamo. And Themi going to be the additional salvo. Still 2 cards available to Arthur. Arsenal and hand.
Yeah, that's really important to note at this point, especially with an Ash in reserve, Arthur. It could be like a very, Dust Up's in the pitch zone right now. That's an amazing way to sort of close out a turn here. Gives you everything you really want as a Draconic Illusionist.
Looks like we're going to go ahead and close up the chain here. And Asvalai got to come down
boy.
as well, eating up that final ash. So out of ash, something to keep very close track of at this point. And Asvalai starts to offer that unpreventable damage. The choice was made to go without AB, a choice I agree with, Mitch, but is going to introduce some vulnerabilities here for Maximilian Klein.
Maximilian's sort of turn decision might have been made for him now. He doesn't necessarily have the explosiveness to ignore these dragons and try and tear Arthur off of his horse, so it'll probably be janitorial duties on the next turn cycle. Factoring that in now, it's a matter of how many cards are worth committing to this block, right? Either 1 or 0.
I'll take the arcane and no blocks.
Take the arcane and no blocks, he says.
Falls to 13.
Brazen.
Just stop.
Oh, that is
Just
gross. Oh, that is so nasty, Ryan.
Perfect close to the chain there. Is going to go ahead and get those 2 pieces of equipment.
Yeah, that, yeah. I don't know what to say about that one. That one lurking in the hand. Arthur already pitching one of those on that particular turn. Maximilian saying, what are the odds?
Arthur's play is so deceptive. Time and time again, I think he just lines up things perfectly and puts his opponents to tough decisions. Speaking of tough decisions, though, it is going to be Spoils of War to kick things off. And this is going to go ahead and get some cleanup duty done. That hatchet going to go ahead and take down the Themi. Let's see what we want to do for this Kyloria. I assume that's the next priority target. Goblet going to go ahead and set up a future turn.
Yeah, it might be. Asvalai, obviously, with that evasive damage.
Maybe.
And Kyloria has no cards to draw right now because we've just generated some copper.
That is true. And
It will be Kyloria, though.
still going to go ahead and go after that Kyloria.
Then move to my end step and move the counter.
All right. Dynamo counter reset. Asvalai still on the board here. 4 cards to hand for the Dromai. And now that life gap has shrunk once more. 10 plays 13 as Maximilian Klein draws up to 4.
E-Strike at the ready for Arthur. Can kick this turn off. Some dragon refreshments along the way, but critically, Mitch.
The Ash.
No Ash. Oh, never
Oh,
mind.
never
We've got
mind.
the solution. No
Yeah.
problem. Tome of Imperial Flame. The problem is this go-around, that Balance of Justice is online. So there will be some value to recoup from Max, but that's the perfect way to go ahead and generate the Ash you need.
Did Maximilian pitch away that hold the line last turn? He must have, because he's played the Goblet here, so...
Yes, I believe he did.
That's fine. Again, finding like exactly 5 value on blocks is not really reliable here. But yeah, still has equity. Still able to draw up a card to match what Arthur can do.
How does Arthur want to approach this turn?
He wants to get maximum info as early as possible. That would include seeing as many cards as you can.
Yeah, and Tome of Imperial Flame comes down. 2 cards drawn, 2 cards to be pitched. Second Tome? Question mark?
Maximilian's like, I didn't have 2 balances of justice. Come on.
Is going to go ahead and pitch this additional redundant copy of Tome. 1 more card still to be pitched.
Billowing, Enlightened Strike, Dromai, another Themi. Billowing Mirage might be the option here.
You can look at something like a Chromai into Enlightened Strike turn if you want. That sounds pretty good to me. Chromai, Asvalai, Enlightened Strike. Nice damage output there.
Obviously, Flamescale Furnace is going to give you plenty of resources here as well. Yep.
You're
We are
resource rich to be
pitching
sure.
one to the furnace. Or paying one in, excuse me. Here comes Themi once more.
I think I want to do anything there.
Yep. What do you think about that? The problem is that was sort of, I think you have to activate your balance in response here, no?
You assume so? You've seen another Tome pitch. You've seen 2 played at this
Yep.
point. Yeah,
Go for it.
it's time to go ahead and get the value from that card. Take a card into hand, which is good because I do think there's a substantial amount of damage headed Max's way, assuming no popper has been drawn in this moment.
Big question, isn't it? Big question.
Absolutely is. Certainly got to refresh the cards in hand with the help of that balance.
The Fighter Dragons are poised, perched.
Any prevention effect would have to be used as well at this juncture before that Themi's
There's a
online.
popper.
There's a
That's
popper.
amnesia.
He's got amnesia.
2 of them.
Dual poppers. So Uvia's going to come down, get that extra action point critically in this spot. However,
That is important.
these poppers are ready to play defense, and that is going to clean up that Uvia.
Very short-lived for Dromai there. Yep. Into the bin.
Yeah, Ashwing surely going to come through. And I think you're going to get to pick off potentially a premium target here with that second popper. They never play around the second popper, Mitch.
Double popper turn. Why would you? There's 7 in the deck. How do you play around that? Here comes Asfalai. Still threatening that arcane damage, though. That's something that Maximilian is priced into at this point.
Yeah, no way to get around that, but does
Booyah!
have that second amnesia. Go ahead and pop that Asfalai. Reclaim the turn.
There's no way he's got a third. No. Themi, though, still lingers. There's some draconic presence on the board still for our illusionist player.
But it's minimal, and I think twin poppers there was exactly the sauce that Maximilian Klein needed.
What is it with these people drawing the exact silver bullet off of their balance of justice this tournament? It's insane.
We call that scripting.
Oh,
Mitch.
my
We
goodness.
go ahead and script these finals.
Sam write this one too?
Yeah.
My God.
Hell of a screenwriter.
Talented.
Agility.
No,
He had all 3 of them. Come on, you got to be kidding me.
Oh,
An
God.
embarrassment of riches for Maximilian Klein, able to use this one for some offense, coming in for 6.
When it rains, it pours, Brian. Almost half of the poppers in the Dorinthea deck come up in the same hand. How about 6 damage, Arthur? How do you feel?
I'm honestly not sure I would.
Going to ask some questions about amnesia, and I understand this is a complicated one.
Yes, if Ash loses its name, does it still function?
It does. I believe it
Yeah.
does in this case.
It's like Jon Snow still was able to get out there and swing a sword. He didn't have a name.
Yeah, so what you're targeting in this instance, I believe. I hate doing this on stream because I'll probably show my whole ass here, but that's fine. We're going to go ahead and do it anyway. Ash, when you target it with a dragon and invocation of a dragon, it's about the type. It's got a super type of Ash. Despite the fact it doesn't have the name Ash anymore, I believe it still has the super type. Our judges will go ahead and provide this information. They'll get it all cleared, and chat can rage about how I got it wrong. Both outcomes are okay. I can live with that.
Brian Gottlieb, you heard it here first, showing his whole Ash on stream.
Yep. The entirety of my Ash.
Big shout out to everybody joining us here on the stream side. 4,000 fellow flesh and blood lovers, and you're being treated to the highest quality gameplay. And I'm not just saying that because there's a Dorinthea involved. I promise.
I don't believe you, Mitch, but that's okay. As long as you're saying it, that's what matters, because you are 100% correct.
I'm such a simp. Okay. All right, Arthur, having a look now again, has to consider popper density. He has a deck list, obviously, that he has access to. I believe it's 2 Command and Conquers and 1 Down and Dirty still lingering in the 80 for Maximilian.
Yeah, that lines up with my count as well, Mitch. And you have to feel that fear that Down and Dirty can come out of anywhere. Very, very cool card. I'm so happy that one exists.
Right.
I also designed it, but you know, what are you gonna do? I would like it if someone else designed it too.
It's not just because you designed it, but sure. So again, I guess much of the discussion about amnesia and Ash tokens has probably been resolved by this point. Again, the super type being what is most crucial here. Sending a 6 at your opponent, accounting for 60% of their current life total.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that's true, Mitch. I think what's actually most important is 6. The number 6, that's a big number. And with Arthur just at 10, each point of damage represents one less thing you can play around when playing against this Dorinthea.
Finding a effective use for this defense reaction.
Yeah, efficient coverage here. Clean block of 6.
Maximilian representing Pummel.
Talked about that one of blue Pummel.
Yep.
It's not in Max's deck.
No.
Breathe easy, Arthur. You have escaped. There is more to come, though. We know. Those hatchets looking to get in the mix. Are there additional bits of go again? Looks like cleave. So this is going to be a number turn, but a pretty interesting one, honestly. And this is our first chance to take a look at a cleave. And when this hits a hero or ally, you may deal that much damage to another ally controlled by the same hero. So +4 and going to be a clean swing here for 6. Do you throw it at the Themi, just totally clean the board? Do you throw it at your opponent?
The amount of damage matters.
And I think it's so interesting that that flame scale furnace is available, because were it not, the cleave would just work going to the face. It could go ahead and do damage and clean up an Ashwing. But let's see how Max wants to play it. Does he want to get aggressive here and force Arthur to have those blocks? Look, taking cards from hand is worth a lot as well.
Max can either, leak some damage here and get rid of the Ashwing. That's fine. I don't think he's targeting Themi. It's not a high-value play because he cannot cleave the extra damage done to Themi onto Arthur. That would be busted.
Yeah, it only works in reverse. You can target the Themi and clean up the Ashwing. That's fine. Or you target Arthur and hope to leak 1, maybe 4. But he is going to go after the Themi and is very disciplined. Going to clean up the board. No Ash for Arthur, and no Tome coming to bail out. We know that Tome on the bottom of the deck right now. So things in a very, very good place for Maximilian Klein as he heads into this next turn.
Yeah, and again, closing the chain there meant that you could have got in with that Flamescale Furnace, and that would have made that swing at Arthur much less valuable. Maximilian, the janitor, coming out of that turn here, feeling pretty good with an empty board. And, this is an interesting one. You've got to play a red to give that Blaze Headlong go again. So we'll do that in the form of the Enlightened Strike bottoming. Perhaps it's Twin.
Yeah, that would be my guess. You just go E-Strike into that Blaze Headlong. It looks like draw a card, and we do have those Snapdragon Scalers available, Mitch, and that makes a lot of sense. Time to go ahead and get that one kicking.
We really glossed over it. No Mage Masters in this matchup. Maximilian, he knows exactly what the game plan is here. The question is really how much he can do about it. I think that's Command and Conquer in his hand.
It is Pauper available, but maybe not at the right time. Don't see a lot of Dragons working on this particular turn cycle.
I don't think we're seeing a turn that's going to feature many of them, if at all.
Really interesting, because in retrospect, that means you wanted to throw the Cleave face with that Pauper drawn. No way Max could have known that, not criticizing the play at all. Hindsight's 20/20. Let's see how Max navigates this new situation.
I will say, though, that, Enlightened Strike, into this Blaze Headlong doesn't create Ash. There's nothing being pitched for this kind of play.
Does not. And it is important that Arthur finds a way to pitch at some point and is able to create Ash one more time. Take it on the chin. Going to do a little bit of defense here. And that agility token created critically as we head into the next turn. It looks like Nourishing Emptiness was the draw. That's not what I'm looking for here. That is not turned on those Burn Them Alls, not able to clean up the graveyard thus far. Blaze Headlong 4, go again.
Again, another 4 that doesn't feel great to block. There's no on hit. It looks like a rabble that we saw at the start of the game. But Max now is in a point where he can just allow this damage to come in. He needs to preserve life. And it might be that he sort of realizes that the possibility of a dragon following this up is pretty minimal. He has an agility token. So opening with a Command and Conquer isn't a terrible way to start the turn if you're of any assumption that Arthur might plan to keep cards. But if he just sticks that Sigil in Arsenal, the egg is in your face if you're the one throwing a CNC at that.
Yeah, and I think there's a high percentage chance. Like, you just kind of narrow down the possibilities of what could be in hand. And I do think Sigil makes some sense. That's easy for me to say. I could see the hands. But I could see Max making that same conclusion as well. And that's why that CNC may be looking less valuable in this instance. Not sure that's going to get another chance to pop.
Able to see you, ladies and gentlemen, as our game feed will returning momentarily.
Do not worry, folks. We are going to pause our players here, make sure we get every single drip of action. We will get that all sorted down there. Mitch, let's reset here.
Absolutely.
It has been a barn burner of a finals thus far. I think Maximilian Klein has shown the versatility of this Dorinthea deck. It has been equally adept pushing damage and going ahead and just keeping this board clear. And historically, that's been a massive, massive problem for the warrior class in general, but especially Dorinthea.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, getting sort of stuffed halfway through an ideal turn you're trying to develop here now. These turns are really smooth. They're really efficient. Being above rate is not something that Warriors was sort of used to doing without a lot of legwork required to get you into that position in the first place. So being able to start the game and end the game with that same level of value available to you off small hands is crucial. Maximilian also just took that 4.
Yeah.
He just copped it sweet. Going down to 5 here means he's got grand plans for the rest of those cards sitting in his hand. But I think if I'm a player that takes that damage, that takes a life deficit, and then sees my opponent throw a Sigil of Solace at me, it's like, I feel punished by that.
Yeah, you feel lied to, honestly. Something has gone astray. And now we are ready to rejoin our players down here. Stakes equally high. And I just saw Arthur reaching for that E-Strike. Going to go ahead and prioritize a card, damage. I'm not sure exactly what the decision will be on this E-Strike.
This is a red line Dromai.
Yeah,
I won't hear otherwise.
Very impressive stuff here, finding the right moments to get aggressive. Arthur is going to draw. Going to go ahead and pick up a card from the top of the deck. Still representing lethal here. Of course, Braveforge Bracers could be committed to go ahead and fall to 1, but that's not where I want to be if I'm in Max's seat. And it looks like another card being pulled forward to the defense here.
Valuable information here for Maximilian, though, that his opponent opts to draw. That might change the calculus when it comes to whether or not he values that command and conquer in his hand. Now, though, being on the back foot. Now, though, suffering the life deficit. Maximilian Klein is running out of rope here to construct these turns that really put the fear of God in Arthur Trehet. What's in the yard?
5 is not a comfortable number to be at. I will say this. 5 with no Ash, no Dragons.
No AB.
Little bit more comfortable for Max, but you're right. No AB, and that's a continually hanging sword of Damocles over this match, is when that unpreventable damage shows up, you need to be able to fade it for a few turns.
There is a spill blood in the hand for Maximilian Klein. He has great aspirations for that card. So the Command and Conquer gets in here with the Brave Forge braces to cover up much of this damage. It's awkward. This is not the time that Maximilian was hoping to draw a popper. It's not a turn where it was relevant. We have the draw here, so I think Arthur is simply deliberating on an instant effect or this
flexing
arsenal.
a little bit here. What is going to be the play here? It looks like Arthur has options, not just hopping immediately into the arsenal. Is it something like another attack, another Ravenous Rabble or Blaze Headlong?
He might be hoping to free up space in his hand to draw as many cards as possible, to dig as deep as possible for a silver bullet.
Yeah, that could also be the consideration here. This is a really interesting spot. Arthur is going to go ahead.
Okay, pitch to the furnace.
Pitch to the furnace. Make sure he has Ash on the next turn. Makes a lot of sense. You want to have those dragons available to you.
And that's the deliberation is a hard one, because Dust Up is an incredible arsenal target.
Yeah.
It is so good at a break point with all these extra value for you, but he's looking for the value now, not later. And here comes that spill blood from Maximilian.
Yeah,
Dominate on the axis. Already an agility token in play. He's going for it.
Also looking for value is Max. 4 Dominate to kick the turn off. Tunic at the ready critically in this spot. Go again is granted here by that agility. What does Arthur have available for defensive options?
He has
I
a
see the
Fate.
Fate. Okay, that's a nice spot to pick up that one. That is good coverage of this particular attack.
And again, spill blood comes with a cost. Spent 2 resources of the 3 available already, has Maximilian. How many of those defense reactions you got knocking around in there, buddy? Oh, attack reactions, excuse me. How many in the swings, especially?
Dust Up, Command and Conquer, Fate Foreseen.
The ladder escapes from the hand onto the board with an opt.
E-Strike, last card in hand. Again, a dragonless turn, but one that is capable of producing some damage.
Maximilian's deck is lean, and that gives him the room to be a little transformative about his sideboarding decisions. Like these constant 4 breakpoints, even against a Valiant Dynamo deck, are still frustrating. Maximilian leaking 1, if not 4, on so many of those instances. Now, we are very low on those now, but that's where most of Arthur's damage has originated from.
Oh, absolutely. Unquestionably. It has felt like Redline Dromai at times. Follow-up of this Hatchet of Mind.
5 Dominate.
And no go again as of now. Is this just 5 damage? Is this just kind of face up? Tudik going to pass through to the next turn?
It's very uncompelling, if so.
The card here that would change the math. Shift the tide of battle.
Yeah, certainly would. Blade Runners also, would be fine if we had extra resources. We do not.
Arthur thinking, how bad can this get for me? What is the absolute worst case scenario? And I think with utmost certainty, you can say you're not going to face lethal on this turn, and that gives Arthur some flexibility on how he wants to play his own turn. Is going to go ahead and take 5 here.
No reactions. So, Spill Blood, intended just to force some damage.
And it has done so. Arthur falls to 5.
1 Ash for Arthur, 3 cards in hand. Is it as simple as
Conquer?
shipping an E-Strike here? Command and
Something
Conquer,
like
maybe?
E-Strike go again into Dust Up. Few options available here. Command and Conquer also a real option.
That's a Billowing Mirage.
Oh, thank you. Billowing Mirage. Good catch, Mitch.
Again, also pitching 2 reds to Command and Conquer doesn't seem terrible. Maybe it just doesn't quite have the gravity of the kind of plays you want to be making at this crucial endgame stage.
Does mean you fix your Ash for the rest of the game. And having drawn the amount of non-dragons Arthur has, the dragons are coming. They're there in the deck. What does Arthur want to do in this instance? Looks like 1 card being pulled forward. It's going to be the Billowing Mirage to kick things off here with Go Again.
Getting an Ashwing is big.
Making that Ashwing very, very nice here. you're Max, you have the Valiant Dynamo at the ready. You strike last card in hand. We know that will not have further influence over this turn.
Yeah, the
least on the
decision there
combat
is a
chain.
pitch to Flamescale or to pocket it away.
Feels like it's supposed to be pocketed here, but we
Yeah.
will see. I'm not going to supplement my opinion for Arthur's. He has been flawless thus far all day long. And a defensive card put in front of that Billowing Mirage. And now this Ether Ashwing coming in for one. Valiant Dynamos at the ready. You expect those will be lined up.
I think
There's also a take it on the chin, though.
Max definitely fears that the dust up follow-up here. He doesn't want to deal with that. I think that he probably has been able to track that, though, to some degree. And it would not be close to the top of the deck. Going to give it to Arthur. He's been very deceptive, extremely good at masking his intent and sequencing in such a way as that a lot of these attacks are coming from unforeseen axes.
Agree. If you've ever played against a truly great poker player, there's this ability to do the same actions as everyone else, but do them in a way that makes them indecipherable. I feel that way about Arthur. You know, the game plan is the same. You're seeing exactly what you would expect from this Dromai deck, but everything feels veiled behind a layer of secrecy and looks like double damage prevention available for Max, and you can understand why he's thinking about potentially spending one in this case. Do not want to get caught with a redundant copy of that kind of effect should the turn just end here.
We are approaching the final verses of this Song of Fire and Iron, folks. 5 life, 4 life respectively here between Arthur Trehet and Maximilian Klein. The latter trying to decide what might follow this Aether Ashwing. If I commit my dynamos here, I won't be able to effectively block a dust up with one card from hand. That's a big decision. It's massive. The difference between two cards and 3 here cannot be overstated.
There's also a world, though, where these prevention effects are not able to be utilized all that effectively. And I think that's the second thing Max has to consider on this turn. Quite a troubling turn for Max. You really, really need to think through all the permutations, all the potential punishments, and understand exactly what's going to happen. And I believe he has said no blocks. Okay. No blocks coming, and just going to be the arsenal from Arthur. And you saw it on Max's face. You saw that click of the tongue. Arthur played in such a fashion and got Max to fall into exactly his trap. And now this turn doomed to less efficiency for that deceptiveness.
These two are having a conversation underneath what we're seeing on the board here. Both of them knew exactly what was being represented, and Arthur was hoping to sneak 1 point of damage through. That could be everything here. I will say on Maximilian's side, though, a 3-card hand plus Arsenal plus Tunic counter available can represent some power.
That's
but
nice.
Does he have the right cards?
Arthur could have just claimed agility with almost no cost here, and it's quite painful. Or excuse me, Maximilian could have claimed that agility, and it's quite painful to know this turn could be so much more efficient, so much cleaner.
Now, the second go-again enabler in Max's hand might be better employed as a resource card, as pitch. If one of those are blue, we're in the green.
Tunic is at the ready, which I think is a big factor on this turn, and maybe it allows that Take It on the Chin to function well as a resource card. We have to see how Max wants to proceed.
Ooh.
It is going to be hit and run to kick off the turn.
Yeah, just missing out on the +3, though, Brian. You'd do anything to have access to a pump like that at this stage of the game.
Feels painful, Mitch. Painful. Could have gotten so much more from this card with just a little bit different decision.
Axe comes in. It's just for 2. An annoying number, sure. But one that Arthur is absolutely equipped to block. No, it's going over towards an Ashwing here. Maximilian so meticulous in clearing the board. Brave Forge braces into the Axe of Mind here.
I'm going to be honest with you, Mitch. Sure, Max is being meticulous. This is a sign of a turn that has gone wrong. I think disaster befell Max on that last turn. I think a miss of that Take It on the Chin as a defensive option is such a big deal, and it could be potentially 1,000 and thousands and thousands of dollars mistake for Maximilian Klein.
You either have a way to pump this or you have a way to give it go again. You don't have both. Arthur knows there's no single attack reaction that can kill him if he blocks this sufficiently.
And what does the hand composition look like? It looks rich with dragons. I see an Uvia. I see a Yendurai. I know there are very few poppers left in Max's deck at this point. Can Arthur find the window? Does he once again trade a bit of life? Does have defense reaction at the ready, so has some time to parse this one out, to understand exactly what is happening from Maximilian Klein. In the swing, a little scary here. That does represent lethal, but I think with that fate at the ready, no huge risk immediately apparent for Arthur. And this feels like a popper count to me. What are the options available to Max? And also simultaneously checking those attack reactions. What's the ceiling? Where are we going with this one?
It's going to take quite a while to unfurrow the brows after this game.
Thinking about a blade flurry. And look, here's the deceptiveness of this hand. If you're in Arthur's seat, there could be something like a Shift the Tide of Battle in Arsenal. That's a bit of a scary one. We know, though, just the damage prevention effect. And it is going to be just the Flame Scale Furnace committed here. And that means Arthur is going into this turn with a full grip, Mitch, ready to fuel that Enlightened Strike, ready to make dragons. Can Maximilian Klein find a popper? This feels like a critical moment to find either that last Command and Conquer, I believe, or that Down and Dirty, which we have not seen thus far.
Digging deep. 4 cards.
I don't see it, Mitch.
I don't think I see it either,
I don't see
Brian.
the popper.
One ash to work with here, but ways to generate more for Arthur Trehet, and his opponent sits at a paltry 3 life. This game has gone all the way down to the wire. And now, all 9 billion realities revealing themselves to Arthur. Quite a few of them, I suspect, he comes out the victor here, but which path shall he choose? He's on the front foot. He might be down 1 point of life, but that hand is gas.
Momentum clearly swung in favor of Arthur Trehet here. Kicks things off with this Enlightened Strike from Arsenal.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, that
So
Yendurai.
5 go again.
Yendurai going to head to the bottom of the deck. That one a bit redundant here. Has the dragon available to go ahead and present damage. Can potentially save that fate for a future spot. Blaze headlong, getting this chain a little bit wider.
Any reactions?
Take it on the chin.
There's the
Covers
prevention
5. Gets us that agility token. Arthur has fallen to that critical 2 life, where you are subject to being blown out by those attack reactions. Blaze headlong here is going to ask for a card in the Dynamos in order to be fully covered. Maximilian, though, has the second swing in hand. That's the kind of card that can win this game. But can you stop this damage right now?
You need to be able to get through this turn with some cards in hand to leverage that, and it's
gotta
going to
lose one.
so hard. I just don't know how. I feel like Max is absolutely up against it. Now that agility is present.
The
and-
Blade Runner's redundant.
Yep, Blade Runner is committed here. 1 damage looks like it may leak.
Oh, he's letting it through.
It is,
Okay.
falls to 2.
What's next? There's surely more where that came from. Wait.
Chain closes.
Okay. Here comes Kai Loria. Another breakpoint being shown.
4 as well as additional card draw. That's going to come in. There's the coppers, of course, so that blunts that. But more importantly,
He wants blood, not coppers, Brian.
card demanded here. Absolutely demanded. Can go ahead and cover that up with 2 cards, but that does get rid of the in the swing, and that means Max's next turn likely to be somewhat face up. However, Tunic
He
available.
can represent an
Tunic
attack
available.
reaction still.
100%, and it's so critical to get Arthur to have the fear. You need to instill fear in Arthur. You need to make it unknown. But no, instead we are going to go ahead and pitch the blue here and look to save that Tunic for a future turn.
Brayforge braces, axe swing. This is still going to ask Arthur the question, what will you give me?
Yeah, card has to be committed here.
He's got a really efficient block available though, Brian.
Clean cover.
Look at that leftmost card in Arthur's hand.
Burn them all. Let's burn them all with Maximilian Klein at 2 life. And if that starts influencing this match, this will end in exactly 2 turns. Can Arthur find the way to get that deployed, get that out there in the arena, and go ahead and close this one out and become a Pro Tour champion?
He sees the line. He has a comfortable way to cover this axe swing, and everything's face up here from Maximilian. So that's not the decision he's necessarily agonizing over. It's the next one.
Yeah, it feels like you go ahead, you sink below here, you use that free dragon in hand to power up that burn them all, and then you just ride those dragons to victory. Can you find the window here as Arthur Trehet?
This is the perfect time to take a moment. Every step that Arthur has taken has been considered. It's been deliberate. And that's what has got him through back to back absolute screamers of matches. This one, no exception.
There's no question either of these players a deserving Pro Tour champion, but you can't help but be impressed by Arthur's play thus far. It just seems like he's always a step ahead, always knows exactly what to do in every situation. Needs to take one more look at his own graveyard now, understand what's available. Certainly more than enough fuel for the burn them all to end this game. Just absolute redundant layers of reds at this point. Checking perhaps for what can be drawn off of this sink below. What are the options here? What exactly is Arthur looking for? That is the question. Is he looking for chain extenders, ways to get a little bit wider?
4 damage on the combat chain.
I love that Arthur is playing just 4D chess right now. He's absolutely a turn ahead. This block is obvious. There is going to be a cover of this with the defense reaction, but it's all about what comes next. It's all about how Arthur seeks to close out this game and become a Pro Tour champion. Arthur's going to take account of deck. Now we're doing some odds figuring. We're understanding mathematically what are the possibilities of drawing some of these key cards we may be looking for.
27 cards in deck. More than enough to see this game out.
Oh, absolutely. This one's ending, and it's ending soon, Mitch. But how is it ending? What is going to be the play here with this sink below? And look at this.
Kyloria.
Look at this. Arthur may defy expectations one more time and look instead to defend with one of these dragons.
The one that represents a breakpoint, no less. He does know that if essentially those are negated by the Valiant Dynamo. So it gets in front of this axe swing. You are going to one? You're going to one!
Move the counter and pass.
He knows he doesn't want to give those cards away and keeps the sink as a backup? What on earth is going on? Again, he's peered into every reality. And this is what he's come up with. Madness or genius, we're going to find out. Here's the burn them all. Flint and Tinder, as his last couple of turns threaten to go up in an inferno. Dromai gets developed.
Dromai.
Getting an action point.
Yes, you do, Arthur. And of course, a vehicle for that arcane damage means that Maximilian Klein has one more turn to play.
Action point at the ready. And what Arthur has done here has said that sink below, knows he can't win on this turn, knows he has to play one more turn, believes he needs that sink below in order to survive one more turn. We may have seen one last flash of next level genius from Arthur Trehet.
Is he playing around Spill Blood? Because that
some
first
ways-
axe swing normally comes in for 4 dominate.
In some ways, absolutely. Absolutely.
There's a Spill Blood in Maximilian Klein's hand.
Are you kidding me?
It's the second card from the left.
But that demands the question, can you fade 2 spill blood? 2 attacks from an axe.
Can you fade
Off
Spill
by
Blood
Spill
into
Blood.
Overpower off a 3 blue hand? Maximilian has to give some of this. So that may not even be possible. It looks like the Overpower might be put in front. It's a very cost-ineffective way to force an attack reaction, but it can be a game ender. It's the route of this Hatchet's Dorinthea deck.
The stakes of this match truly setting in this moment. All the money, all the prestige, that giant check, all on the line. And the pace of play has slowed. These players desperate to find the way through a quagmire of disasters. So much threat from both these players. So many pitfalls to navigate, attack reactions, arcane damage, dragons. There's so many possibilities revealed to these two champions of the game at this point.
For this.
And Max is well and truly in the tank.
If he wants to overpower a dominated axe swing, it's basically impossible with having to give a card here. That attack reaction costs 3, spill blood costs 1, swing costs 1. It's 5 resources. So you need to keep every card. That's not on the cards here. You have a Glint the Quicksilver that represents a go against source with card draw that you will get because your opponent is at 1. But Sink Below from the arsenal does not turn on Reprise.
Critically, Mitch, I think that's a huge deal in this next turn. And the more we unpack the ramifications of Arthur's decisions to go ahead and take 1 and keep that Sink for this turn cycle, the more brilliant it looks to me, Mitch. It could be the difference between being a Pro Tour champion and being a Pro Tour runner-up.
I would say almost any other player on any other day just sends that Sink.
I slam it. I slam it immediately. Immediately. That's why I'm here, and Arthur is down there playing for a Pro Tour championship.
He has found the mental acuity to make that kind of decision at the end of 3 grueling days of play is a feat in and of itself.
Truly, truly incredible stuff. Loaded with blues is Maximilian Klein. Gonna have options on this next turn and ready to move 1 in front of this Chromite. Look, Max doesn't know what the follow-up here is. It could be another difficult attack to deal with. Could be another break point, but it is just an arsenal. It is Sink Below in the arsenal versus Max's hand here.
You can sink the first swing, Brian, but what do you do about the second one?
Mitch?
Maximilian Klein winds up with the spill blood.
The second?
+2.
Did you draw another defense react? Because I think it may take that to go ahead and get through this turn, and it is going to be 4 dominate offered here. The Sink Below is at the ready.
What else is there in the hand? I don't know if Arthur has
the D-react. I don't see it, Mitch.
He has no block left on his armor, Brian. This one here is an easy one. Surely you slam this here. He's asking himself, God knows what. Maybe if he can sink into another defense reaction. That might be the question here.
What other choice do you have? I don't know what else you can do. You have to find it. It has to be exactly a defense reaction.
He doesn't know if he has another sink. I think he might have 1 more in deck. But even then, Hatchet of Mind gets a +1.
Let me go to 5.
A sink is not enough to cover that either.
5. You're right, Mitch. And he would have to find exactly Sigil of Solace. It's the only out at this point.
What a call out. Sigil of Solace to keep him in the game.
This plus sink?
Yep, you've got to account for a potential reaction. It's just going to be Glint the Quicksilver getting Maximilian get another card. Still 1 damage on the stack, so to speak. That'll be covered. Here's the sink. Off the top. You can't be serious! You cannot be serious! Sigil of Solace was pulled off the top.
You have got to be kidding me.
He has showed no sign of this, no reaction whatsoever. Arthur Trehet has kept himself in it again. The most unreasonable, the most untenable way to stay afloat in this game. And the exact answers come off the top of the deck.
5 is offered here. Block 3. What's the last card? What's the last card of Max's hand?
Sigil of Solace. Game 3. Maximilian reaches.
It has to be in the swing. What else can it be? He's got 1. It has to be an attack reaction.
He's hesitating on it. You don't hesitate if you have it. Sigil of Solace back up to 4. To stay in the game. Maximilian Klein is throwing everything. He says, no reactions. Arthur down to 2. And he's alive in this game. Are you kidding?
Burn them all at the ready. Max at 1.
He's dead.
What's left, Mitch? What's left? It's just this attack with Dromai.
Take it on the chin. Does he have any of those available? I feel like he's gone through all of those.
It would have to be a prevention effect. I don't see one.
Not a 1 in the hand. Not a 1. It's a grimace. A rueful. He's shown the hand is extended. We're in the house of the dragon. And at the head of the table sits Arthur Trehet, your Pro Tour Los Angeles champion, with the most incredible cold shot I have ever seen.
Are you kidding me, Mitch? Are you kidding me?
He had 1 out One answer left in his entire deck. The Sigil of Solace came up from the sink. We might never see a moment like this ever again.
Mitch, we have just witnessed the greatest game in Flesh and Blood history, without question. Without question, I have never seen anything like that in the history of this game. The perfect Sigil of Solace off the top to go ahead and prevent that spilled blood turn and go ahead and declare Arthur our Pro Tour Los Angeles champion.
He knew it. He counted his deck. He counted his graveyard, the number of sigils left in the deck. He calculated the possibility that he had an out, but ultimately it didn't matter. He knew that was his only way to survive. That spilled blood turn in any other reality would have gotten the job done.
I can't fathom I have a job to do right now. I kind of just want to sit and bask in what I have just witnessed. I was completely unprepared for what may transpire at the end of that game. And one of the most deserving Pro Tour champions in our game's history, Arthur played out of his mind all day long.
To have the luxury to fall apart at the side of that. It wasn't just this game against Maximilian Klein. It was both the KO matches prior to this, always coming up with the right answer, having the transformative plan to come into the Hatchet Story matchup with the answer. This red line pressure. No Mage Masters, bringing the Snapdragon Scalers, have the answer. And then, again, it's all about putting yourself in a position, being good enough to put yourself in a position to get lucky. And there's an incredible player out there, but you've got to admit, the odds of that having been possible are extremely small. What a player. What a guy, Arthur Trehet, your Pro Tour Los Angeles champion.